Greetings from my bedroom. Whew, wow, I was not expecting to hit 200 subs this fast. Yeah, I know that, but these last few months, I got a sudden spike of these bastards. Whatever the reason is, I once again thank you for your support. As promised for my last subscriber milestone, I'm presenting you my top 20 favorite cars in Gran Turismo 2. Now, this list was relatively easy to sort out, but sad regardless, as I know I left out many iconic GT2 exclusive cars, and this game still has one of the most unique and impressive lineups of vehicles out of any game ever. 600 plus cars, and so many of them not to be seen in future titles. It's a fantastic lineup, and leaving out so much cars for this list was painful to say the least. But here we are. Now, I did do a podcast with HSG Automotive for our top 10 favorite GT2 exclusive cars, which you can check out here once the video is over. Spoiler alert, all of those cars I listed there made it into this one, but not in the same order. So I won't spend too much time detailing my love for those cars, or in fact all of them compared to my previous countdown. Speaking of which, same rules apply here. Only one car per lineage, and I'm ranking these cars based on how much I love them in this game specifically. So for example, the Chevrolet Corvette 427 won't appear on this list despite being pretty high in my Gran Turismo 1 countdown, simply because there are more muscle cars to choose from. Let's get started. Yeah, I'm starting off lame just like last time. I love the fact that GT2 features a lot of normal cars that were often seen in various countries, as opposed to exclusively Japan. I doubt everyone who played the game has at least one car they've been in at least, but the Dodge Intrepid is that for me. My grandparents had an Intrepid, only it was a Chrysler since for some reason it was badged as such in Canada. It had one of those front middle seats, making it very practical, and they used to gather young relatives and head out to a breakfast restaurant. It was very comfy as well for my taste. So this is more so a car I love out of relatability, even though I don't drive it too much. Gran Turismo 2 was the first game to include proper exotic cars. Lancia Stratos, Lotus Elise GT1, Roof, and most notably for the supercar world, the Jaguar XJ15. As much as I get the appeal of that car though, I vastly much prefer this car, the Jaguar XJ15. I just like the fact that it's an unknown supercar from a popular brand. It looks cool, especially in blue, it handles pretty well, and it's very fast as expected. Not much needs to be said. Respect your elders, kids! The Mini 1275S is one of the best cars for the power limit it's working with. 239 horses and an astonishing 700 kilograms. Considering it's a Mini Cooper, a Monte Carlo competing Mini no less, the handling is going to be amazing. This thing swings through corners and it's so much fun. Worth the purchase. Just don't be fooled by the very low power once you see it in the dealership. Gran Turismo 2 is a well-made game. Super GT cars in general are amazing in GT2. They boast around 700 horsepower on average and are extremely fast in general. There are plenty of amazing ones to choose from, and for the most part it depends on how much you enjoy the livery. This Toyota CDMA-1 Tsurumo Supra gets my pick here for the list of Japanese JGTC cars, because I love how fancy it looks. Something about that 1 written on the side, it makes it so different compared to other GT500 cars. I also love the Pennzoil GTR, but you'll see why that didn't make the cut later. Alongside a previous Supra, this is the only GT2 exclusive car not mentioned in that podcast I brought up at the beginning. It's a shame I only found my love for this car now, because it's my favorite roof car. Yes, even more than all the other CTR models. The Turbo R may not have the insanity of said CTRs, but what it has instead is a very fast all-wheel drive package. I think the reason why this is my favorite roof, it's because it's a perfect blend of typical roof bonkersness and Porsche purity and competitiveness. I also happen to think it's the best car in 2005's Enthusiast Professional Racing. I just want to shed light on that game, it's underrated. Okay, before I say anything, listen to this. So good. Many people seem to forget that the Shelby Daytona Cobra didn't debut in GT6. This was one of those weird occasions where a car in GT2 suddenly gets remembered and gets the HD treatment in the PS3 games. Hell, it might even shock you even more to find out that this race car was one of the S-Class vehicles in arcade mode, alongside Vectors, Venturis, and Vipers. I love Shelby. He's likely my favorite automotive celebrity, and even though the 427 Cobra is likely my favorite in real life, in games I prefer the Daytona. It sounds incredible and is amazing to drive. It handles incredibly despite being a Cobra, and that racing pedigree helps out big time. My only nitpick with this car, it's rather easy to obtain compared to GT6 in sport. Look at this price! Oh hey, on the topic of Vector, that and Venturi are very interesting manufacturers in Gran Turismo 2. I'd be surprised if both have featured in any other racing game. They are some of the biggest contributing factors to why this game has an amazing selection, and the Vector M12 is my personal favorite. Quite possibly the best American supercar of the 90s, the M12 is fast, looks great, and is just fun. Not much else to say. Here we have our first mainstay after this game on the list. I love the Plymouth Superbird so much. I love muscle cars, and this is easily my favorite one, just for how bombastic it is with that huge wing and overall size. Gran Turismo 2 is one of the better interpretations of the car, I'd say. It's tons of fun to drive this around the track, as well as drift it with GT2's slidey physics. I would love to be one in real life. It's one of the most elegant muscle cars around, and I love it to pieces. Ah yes, the Mazda RX7LM edition. Here for pretty much the same reasons as in Gran Turismo 1. It looks like a rocket ship, it goes like one, and it's just really good. Incidentally, the Subaru RM, despite being higher on my previous list, didn't make the cut here because there's just so many race cars to choose from and, well, the Subaru doesn't feel as special here. The RX-7 on the other hand, feels just as good as special as before, if not more so, now that it's a prize car as opposed to dealer bought. I love performance wagons! My dream daily driver is a wagon, the Saab 9.3 Aero Estate, and lots of my favorite cars from certain manufacturers are of the same type. The Audi RS6 Avant, Cadillac CTS-V wagon, Mercedes E55 AMG wagon, and this Nismo Stagea 260 RS, my current favorite Nismo. I just love that Nismo did something like this. They have no right to tune up a Stagea, but they did, and it's awesome. It has the same lazy fun the Superbird has, along with even more craziness on account of it being a wagon. Have I told you how much I love wagons yet? Now, we reach my top 10. And starting off, we have the Skyline that unfortunately replaced the aforementioned Pennzoil GTR. But I mean, come on, look at this thing. Look at how 80s crazy this is. Gran Turismo has notable race cars of all types on its own. The Opel Tigra Ice race car, the Aston Martin DBR9 GT1, this R30 Skyline Silhouette, and most notably the Ticker Ford Falcon V8 supercar. In this case, I love this car not only for how unique and crazy this is, but also for being a very viable option for racing, and it's one of the best handling cars in the game. It's awesome. My favorite hot hatchback of all time. It's a f***ing stupid car. It really is. V6, mid-engined, lack of practicality. No, seriously, look at this. It does everything a hot hatchback isn't supposed to do. And yet, it ticks all the boxes. It looks fantastic. It's slippery as if it were on a hockey rink, and it's just so memorable. This is technically the concept version of the Renault Clio V6, indicated by silver being the only color. And for some reason, it's listed as an S-Class car in arcade mode, and you can tell that's wrong because picking up a stock car from simulation mode and looking at the stats in arcade mode changes it immediately to A-Class. Nobody gets this car, and that's why I love it.
Wrong place!
You're about to own a Panamera. You're irrelevant. As much as I adore the Clio V6 in real life, I cannot ignore the sheer craziness that the Renault Espacifron brings to the table. Placing an F1 V10 in a minivan and have it be one of the fastest cars in the game? Gran Turismo 2 is so lucky. Of course I love driving this car. It sounds great. It looks so out of place, but it's just so much fun. Watch out Toyota GT1s and Nissan R390s, the minivan is one to look out for. What other game could you say that in? I personally consider the Honda S2000 to be the poster car of Gran Turismo 2, mostly due to the Japanese box cover and the intro from said region. So it was no surprise that despite the game releasing the same year as the car, they have enough time to make a freaking GT1 version of the S2000, and it's so much fun. I know I'm repeating myself, but it really does come down to how much fun one can have with a car, not to mention stunning looks and nostalgia. It's really a shame Honda never released an official hardtop version of the S2K, because if it was anything like this, I would fanboy it to the high heavens. No, not the infamous GT40 road car that plagued the historian Road Cup. This is the actual race car that everyone loves. Most of the cars on my list here are solely because of how much they are to drive, but very few I love as well as being very useful in career mode. Now we are getting to that level, as with 493 horsepower and weighing less than a ton, this 4-time Ferrari embarrasser can humiliate a whole lot more in this game. Oh, what's this? An event where the horsepower limit just so happens to be 493 horsepower? Yeah, this car dominates. And not only that, it can do extremely well in the 591 horsepower limited races. And with how early you can get this car, being unlockable in the MR challenge, it is so usable. And not only is it usable, it's iconic, looks beautiful, and it's one of the best sounding cars across the entire Gran Turismo series. Unfortunately, nobody cares because of this asshole. If we're ranking each car on this list based on my love for the vehicle in real life, the Subaru Impreza 22B STI would likely be number 1. I would argue that this is the greatest JDM car of all time. It's not as iconic as the Supra or Skyline, nor is it as consistently collectible as the NSX. What it is, however, is hugely respected. JDM fanboys get so much flack due to their beloved cars being overrated the majority of time, but finding someone who hates the 22B is rare. And that's because it's exclusive, has a funky body kit, is really fast for the power it's given, and harkens back to the rich rally history Subaru partakes in. Admittedly, this is one of my lesser liked iterations of the car due to the proportions being over the top compared to newer games, but a lower rated version of a top 5 favorite car for me is still a treasured vehicle. Yep, my love for the Del Sol LM keeps coming back. If there was one race car, just one, that was forgotten in GT3 that I desperately want to return, it would be this, for the exact same reasons as in Gran Turismo 1. Mid-engine rear-wheel drive race car based on an FF Civic sports car, what's not to love? This iteration is faster than before due to having more horsepower, but other than that, my love is just as high. I love this car so much. It's very weird that despite the GT1 race car being one of the most popular cars in the entire Gran Turismo series, in GT2, almost everyone prefers the road car. I guess that's because you have to gold the S license test to even obtain the 1999 TSO20 race car, whereas you can easily purchase this car for a measly million credits. Not even 2 million, that's just sad. And what you get, despite my teasing earlier, is one of the fastest cars in the game, both for top speed and handling. The first modern Le Mans prototype in GT made a huge impression to a lot of us because this might just be the best handling car in the game. You can brake anywhere and you'll still get a huge lead. Of all the cars on this list, this is the one I highly recommend using for career mode, at least when there's no horsepower limit.
The hell is this crap? The Dodge Viper isn't number 1. You said it was your favorite car of all time. Explain yourself!
Yeah, As much as I fanboy the 8-liter V10 beast, there's at least one car in this game, and spoiler alert, other Gran Turismos, that I prefer. And it might shock you to hear that my favorite version of the Viper in GT2 is this, the STP Taizan Viper GT. One of only 2 non-Japanese cars to compete in the GT500 series in Gran Turismo. The normal Viper GTS, although I still adore, I found really disappointing in Gran Turismo 2. But of all the bad decisions PT has made over years, leaving the super iconic blue with white stripes Viper out of the game in favor of the uncredited ACR version is the one that sticks out to me the most. It's just not the same. I know it sounds picky, but it's true. As a result, I've come to appreciate the race cars more. Compared to the Team Orca Viper as well as the returning GTSR, the STP Taizan is easily the best handling. The former two have a huge tendency to oversteer. GT2 is a very slippery game, but not usually when it comes to the race cars. This one is amazing to drive. It's fast, it handles very well, and this particular version is my favorite livery out of any Viper race car. It started my love for the dark blue and rose red combos for liveries. But that raises the question. If I love this Viper so much, what out of 600 possible cars could have topped— oh, you already know, it's the Escudo. Yeah, sorry if I'm not coming up with anything surprising. It's the most obvious pick for a favorite GT2 car in the world. But you know what? As a kid, I had very few cars I loved to pieces. The Viper, of course, being one of them. All the other cars were either mandatory, or I just didn't care all that much. With 981 horsepower, 4/5 of a ton, a wing somehow even more crazy than the Superbird, Suzuki blasted into my face when driving, and ability to take on more than just the tarmac races, but also every single dirt course, how could my 4-year-old self not fall in love with the Suzuki Escoda Bike Speak Edition? This car is so overpowered. If you compete in a GT All-Stars event, and you do every race with the brakes stripped out of your car, meaning you'll have to crash every step of the way, you'll still win the race without much effort. It makes Meta Knight from Brawl blush in embarrassment. This thing redefined fast in Gran Turismo. In fact, the only cars that were able to dethrone the Escudo's ability was F1 cars. That is how broken this car was. And Polyphony realized this, as in Gran Turismo 3 A-Spec, they severely reduced the Escudo's turning ability. Oh, they still kept it in because they knew how much fans loved the car. But unlike most GT fans, Gran Turismo 2 is the only iteration of car that I truly love. But hey, if that love is enough to make it my favorite car in Gran Turismo 2, outdoing even the Viper, I think that's a good job well done. And so that's going to be it for my Gran Turismo 2 countdown. If you want to check out more of the content I've done on this channel, be sure to check out the Evolution of Cars in Gran Turismo series, and of course my first countdown on the top 10 Gran Turismo 1 cars. Also be sure to keep out on my channel for future videos regarding The Perfect Game, Gran Turismo 7 videos, and essays on specific aspects of various video games. But as always, thank you for watching, and this is Nessa Pajama saying, Fluffy Pillows.